Hello, everyone. Welcome to, I haven't done a talk for Godot in a very long time, I guess. So it's nice to be around. So nice to see everyone if I haven't seen you in a while in the GodotCons. So the motivation for this presentation is to be a bit, you could call constructive suggestion on how to solve a problem we have been having in Godot since day one, I guess. That now that the project is growing so much, it would be nice that I think it's time that we find a solution. Just a reminder about me, original creator of Godot, together with Ariel Mansour. Was a technical lead of the project until around 2022. I'm not active anymore doing programming, but I'm still advising and helping the Godot project as much as I can. I'm the owner of W4 Games. I'm basically W4 Games. You probably have seen in the talk yesterday as a sponsor of the event. What we do is basically we help companies that work with Godot and help Godot adoption in the enterprise, because like my dream is that all the big companies can use Godot. So I help them use Godot with our company. We have like super amazingly talented staff, and they help companies that want to use Godot professionally to completely de-risk and use it safely and have all the benefits of using an open source game engine. What else? Well, and W4 contributes large amount of fixes and improvements to Godot. So I'm not personally writing that much code, but our company writes a lot of stuff. We contributed a lot of nice stuff to Godot, like for example, the embedded game window, lots of improvements on the rendering optimizations, shader baking, a cyclic render graph. Like we still do lots of work from our company for Godot. So technically still active, let's say. And I try to advise as much as possible, help the foundation with public relations, but not active much on the development of the code part of Godot. When the project started, I was just basically doing all the work myself. And over the years, very talented people came to the project and started taking up different roles. So we created the foundation so we could take donations and we could hire the talented contributors that were working on different parts of the engine so they could make those parts their own. And finally, since a couple of years now, I'm not active anymore. I finally deleted everything. And the foundation is doing a fantastic work. Yet there is something that you know, when you have like when they say people are like having these regrets that they can't. Everything is fantastic, but they have one last regret, and this is what this talk is about. It's about suggesting a way to solve one of the problems that probably the only, I wouldn't say it's massive importantly problem or something like that. I think Godot's doing great, but one of the things that I remain that it would be nice to solve and find a solution to, so I could have peace of mind. So, how is Godot developed? This is kind of the idea of how you develop Godot. For those who are not familiar with it. So there is a community and there's the foundation. The community does the majority of the work, the majority of the code, and the foundation will evaluate that work, those proposals, and then eventually merge, reject, or ignore because there are too many. And this is what we're going to be talking about today, contribution. Foundation also has staff, like some of the most skilled contributors are hired by the foundation. And the foundation also takes user feedback besides the external contribution. So normally the external contribution is individuals, like thousands of it. I think Godot is probably the biggest open source project that is not, let's say, sponsored and managed by companies. It's like purely all open contribution, and it's one of the biggest projects on GitHub. It's just guys, people contributing. Some companies, but the majority is by far individuals. So the idea is that there is a very big contribution pool, and that generally works very well. So what would be the ideal workflow, or what is in the mind of people who see Godot? What is the ideal workflow? So the ideal workflow is they have individuals that want to contribute, or that they need to contribute because there is a problem and they want to fix it. They have a feature proposal, then the foundation would check, is this needed? Yes, no. It's important, and blocks important use cases, high demand, evaluation, then yes or no. That would be like the dream scenario, right? This is what everybody thinks things work like. The reality is that that's not how it works. So what happens in practice? The community opens massive amount of feature proposals, pull requests, like absolutely massive. So the Godot Foundation or the main contributors, basically the first thing that check is it high demand? No, ghost. Miss the criteria for merging? No, ghost. Then we can merge. So you're probably wondering, like, why is the ghosting? Why so many stuff open and nobody answers? A lot of people say, hey, there's so many stuff open. Why don't we merge all of it and make Godot better? Why just all this is open in GitHub, ghosted forever? Just to clarify, this a small amount. It's still a smaller amount of proportion of what is closed, so it's probably normal for a project this big, but there's still a huge amount of stuff that is like that. So the first reason is a bit obvious. The volume is just too high. There's way too much stuff contributed open proposals. Despite of this, there are very kind souls in the Godot stuff and the Godot contribution, and they check everything, even if they don't answer. I can assure you there are people who check everything, and if they think it's important, they will bring it to others, even if there isn't any answer. Answering properly takes a lot of time. A lot of time. You may not realize, but you open a proposal because you think this is a good idea. For somebody in the foundation or the key contributors to answer you properly why this is wanted or not, or even evaluated, it can take a lot of time, way more time than people actually have. So a short time, and the other problem is a short answer is also felt as impolite. Somebody can look at it and they decide it, for them it's obvious because they are used to merging a lot of stuff. And they will just go and answer, no, we don't want this. I mean, people don't take it nicely, right? They put a lot of work in the pull request, in opening the proposals. Then somebody can, no, I don't want it. That's just not nice. But the thing is that even if you have the most polite person in the world, the most like kind person, a member of the royalty answering like the pull request or the proposal, some people just cannot take a no. Whatever the politeness, the level of politeness, some people just can't take a no. Dear contributor, I really appreciate your work. We know we put a lot of work on it. It's fantastic. It looks great, but we can't do it because it's not like whatever. Shitstorm. Doesn't matter. So that's how it works. And this is, you have to think that there is paid staff and contributors who donate their free time very generously. And you cannot expect them to be subject to stressful conditions, right? Because this is people doing this because they love it. They work because they are paid, and you cannot expect them to be subject to stressful situations like this with contributors community and things like that. So you really want to protect them because, I mean, most people are fantastic, community is amazing, but small amount can be very stressful to deal with. So the thing is that you cannot expect people who are like, you have to think most people working and donating their free time do it out of generosity to Godot. So you cannot retribute that with getting rants and that kind of things. Some people can get quite unpolite. And so this organically leads to other situations. This situation, this is happening, this leads to a couple of different situations. The first one is that, you know, the Darwin theory of evolution, like contributors making an opening proposals and people try to evolve to like overcome the limitations imposed by the system. So the first thing they do is they make proposals absolutely shiny, sexy, fantastic, lots of screenshots, like examples, animations, like amazing proposal. You look at them and they are like, wow, I want this feature no matter what. Even if nobody will use it, but they make it so nice, like such a good concept, fantastic. So lots of people like it, lots of upvotes, but then the people working on the project are like, who's going to use this? I mean, what's the point? But I mean, this is one of the things that happen to overcome what's going on. The second thing that happens is basically just drama, heated discussions. You have to think that a lot of people think they can combine developers on the technical merit of something. This would be great because in this kind of game, this would be very useful. The technology would make it faster, or this optimization would make this faster, whatever. But the problem is that everything is a speculation. The only thing that is not speculation is that somebody is needing this right now for their game, basically. So, I mean, discussing on speculation, you can be all your life on whether something will be useful or not. It needs to apply to something, right? So this discussion that goes on the technical term that has nothing to do whether somebody needs it or not, that happens a lot. So that's a way to kind of get attention, and this eventually get discussed. And the third situation, which I think is very, very sad, and I would love to avoid it, you have people working on a feature. They really believe in this feature. Others who are their friends or people that found along the way really believe in this feature. Maybe the project doesn't, but they won't get any answer to avoid like stressful situation. So you have people working for months or even years in a feature on a branch, and they really hope that it's going to be merged. They just needs to be better, and they keep improving and improving because they think it's not merged because it's not good enough, and they put so much work. And it's like waiting for Godot to merge the feature, and it doesn't happen, and this is very heartbreaking. So these are all things that I think we should avoid by trying to give some kind of better feedback. I know it's really hard to do this. So the idea is, you may be wondering, okay, why is this high level, high barrier of entry for stuff into the engine? Why not just merge everything? It's useful. No, it doesn't matter. We just can press merge and we merge, right? We get everything in. So the bigger the software is, the more unstable it is. Why? Because more code is more complexity. More code is has more failure points. So more bug fixes needed. And if you want to have software that, if you want Godot to be mature, to be used by companies, bigger studios, successful indies, like you probably have since Slay the Spire, it's now made in Godot, you need to have something really stable, and that you know it's going to remain stable. That's going to be something that you expect that is not going to break your game every 2 months. So stability is key for industry acceptance. This is more code, remember, more complexity, more failure points, and this goes against industry acceptance. So the second, this is so you can see a bit in the history of Godot. The list of enhancement pull requests, this is new features basically, bug issues as a result of that, bug fix PRs needed as a result of that. You can see it's growing constantly, like the more you add, the more bugs and the more you have to fix them. And eventually, after Godot 4 was released, that was lots of untested code going all of a sudden into the user base. It's starting to go down slowly, right? But the thing is that the more you do, the more you need bug issues, the more bug fix PRs you need. It's a relation that you cannot escape. Like, it's more code, more bugs. That's how it is. So the bigger the software, the more space it takes. This is something quite important. You have to think that a larger binary is harder to distribute by mobile asset stores and web. This is one problem. If you make it too big, when you want to load it on the web, it's going to take 5 minutes to open the engine. You have seen that with other engines. There is increased load times because it's bigger. It needs to load more code, initialize more stuff. And if you like Godot because the iteration speed is fantastic, this is going to hurt iteration speed if it's too big and too bloated. If you're doing patching, you need to take a lot more time to do patches. Today is probably still good. I think it's good in size. If people compare it to other engines, and it's still quite small. I think it's 2 million lines of code or something like that. It's probably Unity is probably 10 times that. So it's probably still good today, but it's growing quickly. So how fast? Here you can see the export templates. How are they growing over time? After Godot 4.1, when community usage started exploding, you can see it starts going up. The size of the editor was like, could you believe 9 megabytes when Godot 1 was released? Well, it was made for, you could run games on PSP. Now it's 73 megabytes. This is zipped, obviously. So if you uncompress, it's probably going to be a bit bigger. But yeah, it keeps getting bigger. So that's something that you need to take in. You merge everything, then the velocity of growth here is going to be 5 times faster or something like that. And finally, the thing is, the bigger the software, the harder it is to develop. You have to think that many areas of the engine today got really complicated. Like GDScript used to be 8,000 lines of code. Now it's probably 50,000. when everything you keep adding things to something, you make it more complex. And the problem with this is that the more complex it is, the less people wants to take a look at it and try to fix stuff. And I know many are thinking, oh, just let Cloud Code do it. But the thing is that when you're working on this level of complexity and this level of performance, I mean, it's not made for this. We engine programmers, I mean, how can I say? It's more of a craft than something that you can just make me a game or something like that. So you cannot use it much. It doesn't help so much. For those who may think, let's use AI and get this over with. So the thing is, this means the cost of fixing bugs or adding new features scales up with the project size. So this is why the ones making the engine need to choose wisely what is merged. Like choosing is hard, lots of discussion, multiple criteria is required. But at the end of the day, we don't want to maintain code that nobody will end up using, right? If you merge code that nobody will use, then nobody benefits from it. In actually, it's worse. So how can you help? So one of the problems that I think exists is that the way that the engine is developed and the criteria used to merging or not merging stuff have been developed over time with a lot of experience accumulated by those who work on it. And this is very difficult to transmit to others. There's a lot of criteria that you have to meet in order to determine you want something or not. So the thing is that most of the time, the developers don't really discuss whether something would be useful or not. If you want to like speculate whether something would be useful or not, you could spend your whole life on that. Normally, what developers of Godot really care is that this is useful right now to somebody. If it's not useful right now to somebody, probably it's not going to be considered. That's the harsh reality. So ultimately, the idea is to make something useful, right? So this is a concept I've been working up with other people. I think other projects like PHP do something similar. I think Hugo told me that recently. But this is probably a bit more Godot-like, let's say. How we can do something where we can make a score, right? You see a pull request, a proposal, how you could determine a score for that, right? So the score wouldn't tell you, like, I don't know, above 5 we merge, below 5 we don't merge, because I don't think that makes any sense. But I think that having a process to determine a score is important to educate new contributors, community on like what are the criteria used to evaluate what needs to be merged or not. So the score is more like imagine like a guidance, and it's probably also subjective to some point still. But the idea is that at least you teach how to think this, how to like discuss how to do this. So for example, if you want to make a new pull request, you can get a better idea whether it's going to be merged or not before you actually do all the work or maintain it for 2 years. So the idea is to rate features, enhancements, whatever, from 0 to 10. So 0 is like we're not going to merge that ever. 10 is like definitely should be included, right? So there is not a threshold for approval, disapproval. It's more like use it to guide yourself and compare to what others think, to other pull requests or features. Like just use it as a guide, right? To have something measurable. So if it's obviously too big, then it makes sense that probably should be merged. If it's obviously too low, probably shouldn't be merged. If it's in the middle, then you can discuss it a bit more, but it saves you a lot of time still. So yeah, that's kind of the idea, is to think and compare with others and see how that can help you understand it better. So there are, to me, 4 factors that determine whether you want something. I called it like Chris because for some reason, magically, this is what it looks like. And it's 4 factors. The first is complexity. The second is reach. The third is impediment. And the fourth is stakeholder. So just to be very brief, right? To get the idea. The 4 things that should affect the score of something being merged or not should be, first is the complexity. If this is like a one-liner, much higher chance to be merged, right? If it's something very isolated that doesn't affect anything else, probably, yeah, high chance to be merged. if this touches some core code and nobody really understands how it is and it's a lot of code and nobody really needs and things like that, yeah, probably unlikely that it's going to be merged because it may break, somebody needs to maintain, etc. Right? So that's the complexity. The second is reach. Maximum score affects a lot of users. Everybody is affected. This is terrible. Like you open the editor, it crashes immediately. Yeah, 10. Maybe it's a developer saying, hey, it would be nice if we have this. And you ask, do you need it? No. Well, 0. Affects nobody. So the third one is the impediment. Like how much does this block your progress? Like you cannot make your game in any way without this. Yeah, very high priority, right? You can work it around easily, right? It's just changed like one function by another. You work it around, just that's it. So if it's very easy to work around, there's no need to give it a high priority. And the third one is a bit more political. The third one is like the stakeholder. So that means that who is actually needing this? And we need to discriminate here because one thing is you have an indie that has been working on this game for 5 years and is like close to completion and it's a very, very nice game, or a large company using Godot for something like very big game and they have a lot invested into it. The priority for that is a lot higher than somebody who is just testing out the engine and saying, hey, it would be nice to have this feature. I may need it, right? So the stakeholder is important. Who needs this is important to determine the importance of this, right? We can't be like same for everybody on this because we really want Godot to be successful in the biggest projects possible. So this has to be a priority. So let's dive a bit more into each category. So complexity, again, one-liner, easy to understand, easy to maintain. Oh, I forgot to change to 0 to 10 here, sorry. So let's say it's 10, right? Or 1.0, whatever. Give it the highest score if it's easy to understand and maintain. If it's a lot of code, but it's easy to understand and maintain, like kind of isolated, yeah, high score, 0.75, right? If it's just a one-liner, but nobody knows what it does, probably not so important, right? Nobody knows what's going to happen if you change this value. It can happen. People forget why they write the code sometimes. So if it's a lot of code and it's hard to understand what it does, yeah, probably 0.1, like let's say it's 1 out of 10. And if it's extremely hard to maintain beyond what the project can do, like for example, there was a proposal open, like we want a Vim editor mode in Godot. Yeah. So the second is reach. So if it affects a large amount of users, very high. If it affects a relatively significant amount of users, maybe half of that, maybe 5 out of 10. If it affects the user who reported it only, maybe 1 out of 10, because somebody reports this, they need this, only affects themselves, like this is a feature they only need themselves, low priority, because, I mean, just making a feature for one user when you can work it around probably like shouldn't be that important. And this, if obviously this affects no one, this is just a cool idea, 0. So this one is one of the more interesting. I like to call it impediment. So if you cannot make the game without this, 10, like in this case 1.0. Super important. Nobody should be unable. I mean, at least there has to be a workaround, a way to work it around. Technically, there always is because you have the source code, but you know what I mean. It's really, really difficult to work around this, pretty much impossible, and you're blocked from making the game. Probably very high priority. If there is a hard workaround and affects also the users very often, very high priority also, like maybe 7, 8 out of 10. If there is an easy workaround, this is fine, but affects people very often, like everybody's stumbling upon it all the time. Even if it's easy to work around, just click here. We raise the priority, right? Quite the opposite also. If it's a hard workaround, but you don't have to do it often, maybe once per week. Once per week, do a couple more clicks. It's fine, nobody cares. So these two variables are either one or the other. So if it can be easily worked around and affects users very rarely, then also low priority, let's say 1 out of 10, right? And if it's an alternate, well-defined workflow, so I don't know, somebody comes from Unity, I would like to do things this way. Well, in Godot, we do it this way. You get used to it. Low priority. If it's not really a problem, obviously nothing. And finally, the stakeholder. If it's a large project made in Godot with many developers, significant resources investment, like top priority. Maybe an indie project with a lot of content, has been working a couple of years, also top priority. If it's a smaller team, mostly hobby, probably lesser priority. If it's a simple game, mostly playing around, just playing around with the engine, like very low priority. If we have big people investing a lot, basically on their game, big companies or indies, and they are blocked, this is more important than somebody suggesting that haven't started the game or just are playing around, right? So this is kind of the formula. I prefer to use the geometric mean. Sorry for the developer thing. You just multiply and then do the cubic. Cubic? No, the next one. The square root of 4. So the idea is that from there you can multiply by 10 and you get a score in 0 to 10. I've been trying this a lot and it works quite nice. So let's do some examples. And this is going to cause a lot of chaos. But disclaimer, this is my own simulation, so you better understand how these kind of things are discussed. This is not the opinion of the people who are going to decide here. This is just my suggestion and my simulation. I'm not going to say yes or no to this because I am no longer having this responsibility. Just a disclaimer. Let's be honest. I mean, for many, many years, until I stopped doing this, I was the bad guy who was the asshole for like rejecting a pull request that made the close button pink or something like that. So just to clarify, I have nothing to do with this. This is my own simulation. Okay. Vim mode. It's complex if you need it. So complexity, we put it a very low score because it's extremely, extremely hard to change the text editor and make it Vim-like. The reach, let's be honest, not that many people need a Vim editor. There are very vocal users, but not that many people need a Vim-like editor. The impediment is low because you can actually use Vim if you want. Just use Vim and modify the source code outside. Godot is very nice. It will reload whatever you change. So that you can even have language servers. You have code completion and everything you want on your Vim editor. If your Vim, I think Vim supports language server, but I don't know. You can have almost everything on Vim. Like people like VS Code, they use it externally. It's all fine. It's not. You have alternate workflow. It's okay. And stakeholder, I haven't seen anybody important saying they need to be big editors. So score 1. So you understand. So close as not planned. Haha, you thought I wasn't going to discuss this one. So interfaces. What does this mean? Traits and these kind of things, right? People really want traits. A lot of people really want traits. What is the problem? It's super difficult to make traits in GDScript because the language is not designed for that. There's a couple of pull requests around. It's really, really hard, to be honest. It does reach a significant amount of users. The reason for this is that when full typing was added to GDScript, the lack of traits, due to how the engine works, can make some things quite annoying, and you have to use the duck typing to work it around. So it reaches a good amount of people. But you know what? Like, games are still made and people still make games, so it's not the death of anybody. So I won't say the impediment is very large. It's annoying, but it's not super large. And the stakeholder actually is very big because the bigger projects like to have like code that is really tidy, really well tested. They do CI on it. They are live op games, so you have big people wanting this. This is very common. So it's important, yes, but what is driving the score down? The technical complexity to do it. It's really hard to have something. GDScript code base is really complicated, adding significantly more complexity. gives contributors like the hesitance. I think it's eventually going to go. This is my opinion again. I don't have the decision or the merge button. I think probably it's going to get in at some point, but it's a very difficult thing to review, very difficult to test. This is one I opened because I thought people was going to find it useful. So one problem that was in Godot is that when you have the toolbar, some of the action stuff appears on the toolbar and not on the inspector. So I opened that proposal. It was super easy to do. I mean, I was like, people are going to really like this. So I thought this is easy, this is great. But when I opened the proposal, nobody cared. So it looks like users just get used to how it works very quickly. So it's not really terrible. It doesn't seem to, I mean, it's a cool idea. This is what I was saying before. So I am the guilty one here. It's a cool idea. I thought it was going to help users. But nobody cared. It didn't avoid anybody from making the game. So, and nobody really important. So score 2. And this one, I think, should be very important to see. Is this one? Yeah, this should be very important to understand how one factor can score a lot. This is refactoring, like code refactoring the engine in the engine editor. This is a very, very requested feature, very requested. Everybody making code with it needs this. So this is the rich 1.0 because everybody needs this. You can still ship games with that, but this is a major annoyance. Let's be honest, 30% of the users use Visual Studio Code because it has refactor for GScript and Godot doesn't. So this is a very major problem. The problem is that adding refactoring was super difficult. There were many attempts, couldn't be made. Really, really difficult to do. The impediment was quite high because there is no easy workaround. You have to go and use Visual Studio Code to do refactors, right? So this is a big problem, big ongoing problem in Godot. And again, the stakeholder is also high because bigger companies have bigger code bases and they need to refactor more often. So the score before was 5. Before of the complexity, it was so amazing. And then one day, Kobewi, one of the, like, let's say, most skilled Godot contributors that works for the foundation, comes and makes a pull request doing refactoring, 10 lines of code or something like that. And now we change complexity from 0.1 from 0.9. And as you can see, the score goes from 5 to 9. So that means like if it's 9, obviously merge it. So that's how like one component can change the final score. I would just recommend trying out this system. You will be able to get the presentation online anyway on YouTube. But I really recommend playing around with this system because you will see that the numbers that it generates are actually quite close to what you think it should be the final number. It's very interesting. So let's do a bonus on this because, okay, we have this system for voting and determining a score for things, right? How do you apply this? This is just something that you could use as a tool to understand better if it's something wanted or not, probably, but let's go to a practical case on how to apply this in Godot development. So my proposal of this, one thing I always thought for a while that would be nice to have is have a panel. Can be foundation staff, can be volunteers. There's lots of very skilled volunteers on this. There's a lot of people who really likes to go and read the proposals, the pull requests. Like you may think that they are ignored, but a lot of developers read it. They comment it with others in private. So this happens a lot. The problem is that nobody wants to go and give feedback because they are afraid of the shitstorm. So usually the idea is if a panel is made, it has to be anonymous. You don't know who is judging the proposals and the pull requests. So nobody gets harassed, basically. So each of the persons in the panel, let's say it can be 5, assigns a score. They use this score. They assign a score, each of them. Based on the result, they still decide whether they want something or not. It has to be yes or no, right? And because they are 5, it's going to end up being either yes or no, right? So the system can do it. So when it reaches 5 people, because you don't have to force everybody to review it at the same time, when it reaches 5 reviews, then automatically the result is published as a comment by a bot. And you can see the score given by each of the anonymous judges. in every of the categories, and whether they say yes or no, and why they think this would be a good addition or not. Just anonymously, you get the comment. And obviously, the person can appeal and say, hey, I disagree because of this. So the panel can judge again whether they want this or not, right? So there is some kind of feedback. I think this would be nice because then nobody should be afraid to just give their opinion, especially those who understand really well how to determine what they want or not for the project. So I think this could be a very nice way to apply it. I have no idea. I won't do it, but just a suggestion, let's say. So what would we fix, again, with this? Why doing this? What are we fixing with doing this? Well, quite a lot of things. First, you're guiding foundation staff and volunteers in reviewing. You're giving them a framework to better understand how to review the contribution. So it's not a technical discussion. It's something where you have to give a score based on your judgment of many categories and then compute a final score. And then you say yes or no. But you're giving a guidance. You're giving a framework to understand and how to compare with each other, right? The second thing is that you're helping contributors understand better the chance they have on their contribution. So if you want to add a feature, you know it's going to be judged like this, right? You may not agree to the final score or to each of the categories, but you know it's going to be judged like this, so you can get a better idea if this is something really wanted or not, because normally those who contribute have no idea to begin with, right? So the third thing that would be helping is that you're giving a more definitive answer to all those who just put work on open issues and proposals and things, and don't get any feedback. Because as I said, it's very difficult to give this feedback without causing an uproar. But with this system, because the answer is anonymous, the guidelines to judge are very clear. It's not something that needs a lot of discussion. Just give a score on every category, and you just give a score. You can always rediscuss if the contributor doesn't like it, but at least you are giving an answer, right? And finally, as I said, to protect the project staff from being harassed by folks who just can't take a no while giving their honest feedback, basically. This is why I think these things could be fixed like this. Implementation, I have no idea. This is up to whoever is interested in doing it, if the foundation is okay with doing this. But yeah, this is what we could be able to fix in the Godot project with a system like this. I think it's very simple. It's something that, if it's something too bureaucratic, it's probably not going to work. But this is something really simple. Just give the user interface to somebody. What do you think on this? You click, 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 click. Yes, no, submit. And when there are 5 accumulated, then you can see the result. Of course, it's not that everybody in the community can give this score. It's more like those who are trusted to do it, let's say, who have a good judgment. But this allows also to have new people to come and do this judgment and learn how to do it. Otherwise, imagine the current staff explaining the new staff how to do it. It would take months, right? But using this, you can start to get an idea and compare it to how others judge the same thing, who have more experience. You can learn what the criteria is. So that's it. Thanks for coming. And I don't know if you have any time for questions, or we are a bit. No, I think we have a bit, right? All right. If anybody wants to discuss a bit more, open to it.
Yeah, thank you so much for your talk. Earlier you said how the Godot Foundation is really strong because it's open source. Another foundation that's really strong for its community is Home Assistant. I don't know if you know it. It has a separate store towards its main features called HACS. They also have feature requests that are imperfect or niche for a amount of users. Godot does have an asset library, but it kind of lives outside with no pathway back to the main Godot and no real easy dependency or update system. What do you think about improving that system?
Not super related to the talk, but the only information I can give you is that you should expect news on that soon.
Okay, thank you.
That's all I can tell you. That's internal information that maybe I shouldn't have leaked, but expect changes on that soon.
Thanks for the talk. It's a very interesting system to be thinking about. One thing I was wondering is, if you're looking at like what about feature requests for things that would create new users of Godot that do not like yet exist? So in that case, like the reach may be users who aren't there yet. The impediment is that those users are not there yet, and the stakeholder cannot exist yet because they're not there yet because they can't use it. How would you judge it to that?
I think this is a super good question. Let's say one category where this discussion came to happen a couple of times internally when I was more active in the development in Godot is when you compare to Godot to something like Unreal. Unreal has dedicated tools for like, I don't know, visual effect person, for example, or for animator, or because it's designed for that kind of person, right? So if you ask me about that, what I think, my problem is that the only way I know personally how to develop software is organically. I make something, I get feedback, I iterate on the feedback. I try my best, obviously, to see what the feedback from those who tried it and failed are. But the problem is that it's very difficult without feedback because then you are again in speculation territory. I will just give you an example of how you can fail very easily by trying to solve this problem the wrong way, right? At some point, 10 years ago, I think, when I was working on Godot 3, every single person on Twitter was like, add visual scripting, add visual scripting, make visual scripting. Please, I want to do visual scripting with Godot. I was like, okay, so spend like a couple of weeks and implemented something like blueprints. And I made it, I put it on Godot, right? Just everybody was asking, I asked for the requirements. The requirements, well, make it like blueprints. Okay, well, made it like blueprints, put it up. What is the problem? I was like, people really like to use this. I have no idea. I mean, I would never use this, so I have no idea, right? So I just made it anyway and put it up I think in Godot 3, it was implemented. Nobody used it. Ever. In the end, it was never used. And the reason why it was never used is that first, like, Godot is very easy to learn how to script. So most people complain, but then learn how to script and they are fine because they are used to either Visual Script or C++, right? Or C#. And for many, that's too complicated. But GDScript is very easy. So in the end, what we found when doing polls and seeing what people that complained about this did eventually, they all learned GDScript. And they're totally happy. So this happens often also when you see people moving from Unity to Godot. They complain about things they are very used to in Unity, but when they get used to Godot, they don't need them anymore and they forget. This is very common, and they are totally happy. And you don't see people saying, I never used Godot, I gave it a real try, I tried to do a lot, but because it doesn't have this Unity feature, that doesn't happen. I mean, it may for something very specific, but like for the normal, regular workflow, it is very uncommon, right? And in the end, visual scripting in Unreal means not just the blueprints, but also all the stuff that you can use with the blueprints that make it make sense, right? If you just give blueprints, but this is the same API C++, nobody's going to use it in Unreal. And this is what we learned. So the problem is that if you try to cater to somebody who is a potential, but you don't really know who that person really is or what they need, even if you ask them, they can tell you something, but at the end of the day, maybe they didn't really need it. They just were poking around with the engine, but they learned it and they use it anyway. So catering to a speculative user type you don't really know, I never really succeeded with that. I think it's just better to like keep doing what people like and iterate on that, and it's still going to get used by more people that way, even if maybe somebody won't use it. But at least you are on solid ground all the time while you develop, and you know that what you write is used and is useful, and it's worth to be there and maintain, right? So in the end, how did this story finish? In Godot 4, we removed visual scripting because nobody used it. And that was a mistake, and we never made that mistake again for trying to develop software this way, basically. Everything else remained, pretty much.
Really enjoyed the talk, and I really like the idea. Having a bit of feedback and a question, having done a bunch of stuff with grant funding and whatnot, I know that anonymous voting panels are one of the biggest problems for bias and prejudice. And so having an audit trail and a ability to query is very important for those systems. So that's just one bit of feedback I'd give, because we know bias and prejudice is really bad in these systems. But then the question would be, I know a lot of studios, commercial studios, that have very high code quality that have started using AI code review simply because it catches a lot of the simple things, a lot of stuff where the code base has a style of doing a certain thing or whatever that can't be caught by CI. And while I don't believe it should have permission, it would be a very useful filtering tool, I think, for general. So I'd be curious what's holding you back, because you seem to have quite a strong opinion on the use of it.
I think that's a really good question. If you ask me, I'm a very pragmatic person, and I think bias is unavoidable. So I think there's no solution to that. You have to trust, and that's how it works. If you don't like it and you don't trust it, then you probably shouldn't use it. That's how it is. And what I think probably people using Godot should take it like, there is always going to be a good amount of decision that is done behind closed doors by people who trust each other. And this cannot be reviewed, and it's like mafia style, like chain of trust, and that's how it works. I don't think you can do it pragmatically. I'm not a person who believes in, I don't know, perfect solutions. Just I believe in what it works, basically. So that's what I can tell you. Saying it like that, the people who are running the foundation, I think they are, how can I say, very reliable, even if I am not active much anymore, I fully trust the guys in the foundation. I think they are fantastic persons committed to the highest standards of the how can I say, of ways to solve the moral problems that we have, trying to take everybody into consideration. So while I don't think there is a perfect solution to this, I really trust that the current people, past people obviously, in the foundation board are really compromised with, like, no, compromise is a bad word in English, sorry, I'm taking Spanish, which is the opposite. I think that they have a really, really strong will to make sure that things work. On the AI side, this is a personal thing. I think the foundation is going to be, at some point, putting out an AI code policy for the project. I cannot give you timelines because, again, not involved. But I think this is something that is necessary. I think the AI stuff is complex. I don't want to get into that because we can be 3 hours on that. I think, at least on the go, the quick way to sum it up, I think it's absolutely fantastic for code review. If you want to save time on testing and finding bugs, just giving it code and let it check stuff. And I think this, even the most skilled programmers can make really good use for that. In my case, and the people I work with, which are probably the highest skill possible for doing this kind of development, which is really high performance platform code, there is pretty much zero vibe coding. You cannot vibe code with it, because even if you try to vibe code with it, it's not going to get you good results. You have this very thin balance between usability and performance that you need a human to judge when you write this level of complexity of code. So for that, I think this is why you don't see a lot of vibe coding in a project like Godot. I mean, vibe coding is more for, I don't know, web stuff, enterprise software, things that don't have that level of required performance, technical complexity. But again, I think for reviewing it's fantastic. I use it myself for doing reviews. That's pretty much the only thing I use it for. Just give it code, just find me obvious bugs, get back the stuff, try to use open models if you can, I guess. But I think in that sense, it's really useful. I think I answered everything, or? Huh?
Sorry, there was a bit of a contradiction there in your answer, because you said you use it a lot for review and it's valuable for review, but then suggest that you shouldn't use it for the general PR review. Because as I say, once...
Oh, no, my own code, not other people's code.
Well, so this is what I'm saying, is that once something is past CI, it seems to be an obvious sort of time saver for a lot of the PRs, because we just have such a high volume, to sort of encourage people to fix things that are...
I think this is a good answer. You should probably talk to the foundation if you want more on that, because I don't know. Probably the answer is cost because it's expensive to run it on CI. That's probably the main blocker. If you let aside, I don't know, there may be a policy that says for some reason, I don't know. No, but I think just for the cost, the having to like run it on the entire PR for every new PR, we have like dozens per day. The cost is probably exorbitant. Yes, please, I guess the next. Oh,
I know we're probably low on time, but I saw your made a comment about the what was it, reach, and what was the last criteria? Stakeholders, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was defined in terms of games. How does it work in the case of something that might be useful for, say, like a GD extension or an add-on author?
My philosophy, this is my philosophy, I'm not totally sure if the project continues it, I would probably think it does, is that you should always be able to do what you want to do. But if the case is not very common and there is no reason to have it on the engine because like very few people need it, the case is not very common, at least there should be like low-level way of doing it. Like for example, you know, in Godot, if scene is too slow, you can use the servers. If the feature is too difficult to add, then you can use an extension. I think that is a valid philosophy. This is what at least I prefer to think on this kind of thing. You should always allow it, like cater to the most common use cases, but leave the door open, at least on the low level, for the least common ones to be implemented.
I like that answer. Thanks.
Last question.
Let's see how to put this. On the stakeholders side, what do you think the biggest things that are missing for larger studios to get on board with Godot? You probably have a pretty good window into that.
To be honest on this, this I can answer you from the side of like my company, not so much from the foundation side. For many years now, I talked to the biggest studios there are, not all of them, but a good amount of them. And the story has always been basically, we are unhappy with our current solution. We have too much invested on it, but we are like unhappy with it, but it works. So the problem with Godot is more about, you could say, they need it to be proven, like more proven. Every year it's still more proven. You can imagine a game that I think the most successful game on Steam this year is made on Godot. So you can imagine that that adds to the proven stuff. And I have knowledge of games that are in development that are not announced yet, that like are similar in importance. So I think the more you see that, the more the proven part happens. I don't think there is a specifically technically limitation. I mean, there are a lot of games that you may want to do that you cannot make on Unity, for example, either without taking the source code and modifying it, which is relatively common also. So I think the current status shouldn't be for the majority of the studios a limitation. I think it's more like it's an investment to switch technology. Many studios now have games that have been out for 10 years and they are not going to move them because it doesn't make any sense. It's too much investment to switch engine of development. But what you're starting to see is that those studios for the new games are starting to use Godot, a lot of them. And every year you see more and more of those. So I think it's this feedback between it's like catch-22, but it still happens because some people are not afraid of risk. That they say okay, let's see more games made in Godot in order to commit to Godot, right? It's kind of a paradox. But what breaks the paradox is that the smaller guys take more risk probably, or even the bigger guys, because they have more money. They prefer to take the risk, if it really is a risk, and just go with Godot. My company helps the risk those companies. We work with many large companies that use Godot, and if they have any problem, we fix it, and they are super happy. So we can see by working, from my company point of view, I can see working with many of the bigger companies that use Godot. Generally, they are very, very happy with the engine. That isn't much of an issue, I think. But many still are wary because, I mean, it's an investment. They want to see it more proven. That's generally the thing. But this is changing every year very, very quickly.
Thanks.
So, time's up.
Thank you, everybody.